Hi, this is Scott, 577 oral presentation, and I'm on part four. This is slide 14. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the methods that are used for PKI. And there are two slides about this. So if you want to look at some of the detail of what I'm saying, go on to slide 15. If you want to see the diagram, it's on slide 14. And the first step is that the system, which desires communication with a secure resource, what it does is it sends a CSR or certificate signing request to an RA or registration authority. The RA then validates the request, and if approved, it forwards it to the CA or certificate authority. The CA, upon receiving the signed CSR, assigns a certificate to the new system and sends documentation to the VA or validation authority. And subsequently, then you have the system now has a key that it can send to the secure resource to to authenticate that it's who it says it is. And then the secure resource then takes this information and it sends the credentials and the key to the VA. The VA then sends an acceptance acknowledgement to the secure resource, which then responds to the request from the system which initiated contact. And this can actually work over scale to many, many different CAs because you're going to have different CAs issue each other trust certificates. And so you're going to have these in the smart grid, and we have these now with a lot of digital commerce. But the important thing to remember is that it's not necessarily foolproof, and I'm going to talk about some of those challenges for the smart grid. But it certainly is a good basis to work. So let's go on to slide 15. You can see that that's the written steps. So let's go on to slide 16. What do we have to do to adapt PKI to the smart grid? And what I found in the literature is that PKI is a loose it has a general guidelines in some of the specifications, but it's not doesn't incorporate some of the details required, the specifics required to really utilize it in a specific business. And so Metke identified that you're going to need PKI standards, you're going to need an automated trust anchor security system, and you're going to need to identify your certificate attributes, and you're going to need a smart grid tool. So let's go on to slide 17. What will the PKI standards do for the smart grid? Well, the standards will establish the different types of certificates that will be used. It'll establish relevant form and organizational practices, and it's necessary for unification across service providers and device manufacturers. So let's talk about that. I mean, that's a big deal right there because really, without these proper standards, you're going to have lots of different individual, utilities going out and trying to develop their own standards, and hence, people producing this equipment, the cost will be very high because they won't necessarily be able to sell off the shelf equipment to different utilities, and off the shelf capability is a big advantage that you want for PKI, and you want it for the smart grid too. You have to identify your naming conventions and operational aspects. You have to install the proper procedures to maintain the PKI, which scales to thousands of systems. So you need to have, your procedures and how long it's going, the certificates are going to last and so on. And the system must continue to operate with the loss of part or all of the security infrastructure. So slide 18, Trust Anchor Management System. The PKI must ensure that each device references the correct PA or trust authority, which is typically a CA at the top of the hierarchy. Each operator has to have its own TA to manage their trust associations, and tools are needed to automate it, installing the TA for each device. So that means when you bring on a whole bunch of new devices and you're ready to migrate them to your TA, you need some sort of automated system to do that rather than having to manually do that. And the literature talked about that. And servers must be empowered to determine the appropriateness of the request or delivering a service. So they need to understand, what's really in that certificate and what it means, and if the request that they're getting is appropriate for that certificate. And then you need each operator also needs to establish a LPD or local policy database to identify how to use certificates. So let's go on to slide 19. Certificate attributes for the smart grid. Attributes must be established which identify the unique characteristics for the grid. So here you're going to identify some of the things in how you're implementing the PKI that's going to impact your availability versus security, speed versus dependability. And so what I'm saying there is that if you really need a lot of security, heavy duty cryptography, and you're going to have your certificates expire very frequently, then it's going to hurt your speed because they're trade-offs because you're going to have frequently have to go through the steps of re-authenticating a system, and so there's a lot of concerns like that that need to be identified. And then systems must also have the knowledge of the chain of certificates between themselves and the TA, and the systems have to be able to continue to operate even when the PKI portions of it go down, because you can't have, oh, I'm sorry, you can have no electricity today because our PKI system isn't authenticated. So we are now on slide 20. What are the smart grid tools? Well, these are going to help with the ease of the adoption of the PKI and its administration. So these are really administrative type things and enforcement things. You need to make sure that the systems are being used the way they're supposed to. And they allow for validating the CSRs and system auditing, and then automatic key generation is part of the tool. So if you would, let's stop and we'll go on to the next portion. Thank you. It will be slide 21.